you've watched movies, and when an actor is on a telephone, right? Oh, hello. Yeah. Well, I'm sitting. You can tell when there's no one on the other end of the phone. I mean, you got to be really, really good. And that's a trick that Sean Penn told me, actually. He's like, listen, if you're on the phone, get someone on the other end of the line. Even if it's not the other actor, just get someone reading those lines off so that you're actually talking to someone on the phone. Because it's the quickest little acting trick, and it's so effective. And that's the same way with the animation. Like, I knew, like, having that person in the room does matter. It does matter. Looking into their eyes when you say, I'm going to miss you, is different than looking to a piece of tape on the wall and saying, I'm going to miss you. Really. And it's for some reason, like, the technical side of filmmaking just thinks like, oh, that's just actors and their soulful ways. It doesn't matter. We can't tell who's off camera. Just look at the piece of tape. But it does matter. And so Jacques Audiard has a very sensitive bullshit detector. So if you tried to pull off anything artificial, he'd be like, you know, what are you doing? Don't do that. I know. All right. I'm sorry. Yeah, the process of that movie was a process of becoming a brother to Joaquin. My performance depends on my relationships. My performance depends on who I'm playing with, you know. And if you're good, then I'm good, you know. We have to work. We have to find, you know, like. And so I just invested early and heavily in this idea of the more I invest in you, the better what I'm doing is going to be, or the more real it's going to be anyway, because I'll be in a relationship with you. I won't be just making something up on my own. I'll be reacting and in collaboration with you, and that's exciting to me. We had about 3 weeks to ride horses and shoot guns and do all this stuff together, and I realized right away, you know. I'm like, so Joaquin, what do you? So Joaquin, like I was like, okay, you don't like to talk, all right. You know what I mean? He's someone who's like, we don't have to talk about stuff. I know who you are. You know, like let's just be alive in this moment together. You know, wow. Which is like, oh, right, I know that's true. But
that's rare.
Just
that's
reminding me of it, you know, like, and so then I realized, like, I'm not going to get to know this guy by asking him questions, and so I realized I'm just going to have to spend time together, because Eli and Charlie, from the time they killed their father when they were little boys, have spent every morning, every evening, every meal, every sunset, every sunrise, every trail ride together, side by side, and that. You get really intimate when you spend that much time shoulder to shoulder with somebody. So I thought, well, I'm just going to do what Eli and Charlie did. I'm just going to be shoulder to shoulder with this guy. And whatever we do, I'm going to be there with him. And we eventually lived together during the movie. We would make dinner for each other every night. We'd drive to and from the set together. We would literally be shoulder to shoulder on the set every day, taking naps on boulders together out in the sun. And one bit by one bit, we became very, very, very close. And to this day, I feel like I'll love Joaquin for the rest of my life. You know?
Oh, that is so
really
sweet.
That's a beautiful thing about being an actor. It's a beautiful thing. I don't know that accountants can say the same thing. You know, that we have these moments, these 5-month periods or whatever it is, the run of a play, the run of a show, where you get so much closer to someone than you might even in your own family or something. You know, because you know it's just 6 months. So I'll reveal my whole heart to this person, you know. It's a special thing. And the bonds that you make with people, you all know. I assume everyone here is an actor, are you?
Yes.
Yeah. You know what it's like. Those bonds, you never ever forget when you get close to somebody like that. Even when the job ends and you know, like, well, it might be 8 days or it might be 8 years before I see that person again, but you let them into your heart in a way that's different than being an accountant or something. Isn't it a wonderful thing as we get older that our eyesight gets poorer, because as we look in the mirror, we can't quite tell how we're aging. We're like, oh, it's you again, same old you. You know, I still feel like I still look at the world through the same lens of that childhood self. You know, really,
But I think you bring that to your work too. I think there's something so special.
I think all actors do. You have to keep some kind of that make-believe stuff.
But there are a lot of actors who act with a capital A who really are trying to come across as so almost like too austere, or there's something very
humorless. I think is the word you're looking for.
Exactly. Yes.
I don't think I really chose to become a more comedic actor. Just Will Ferrell and Adam McKay just offered that to me. So suddenly I was a comedy actor. You know, like as far as I know, I'm just an actor. You know, I just do whatever's put in front of me, and it's not like I changed what I'm doing in order to be in a comedy or something. But I think, like, I can't tell you how many funerals I've gone to where you end up just cackling with laughter at some story or some beautiful day in a park when you remember your dead mother or something. It's like life is not one way or the other. Life is comedy and tragedy all the time. Every 2 seconds it flips back and forth. So the most engaging performances I see are the ones that tell the truth about that are honest about the fact that there's light and shadow all the time. Yeah.
Which part you've played that you feel is closest to who you are?
I don't know who I am. I'm just a vessel. I'm a vessel for other people. I'm a vessel for things to pass through me. You know, like I don't really know who I am. It's not a bad thing. I'm just from the time I can remember, I've been someone who's inhabiting other people's lives and other experiences. But I mean, if I had to say like what came from the deepest parts of me, that would be the things that I improvised, right? So Wreck-It Ralph is certainly a lot of my own kind of spirit is in that character, or Boogie Nights, or you know, like the stuff where I really had where I was given agency with my own artistic output, where I could say, or I could look at it afterwards and be like, I own a little bit of that because it came from in here. This is something I keep returning to because I think it's really important for actors to recognize that that's a really, really good skill to have, and you shouldn't be ashamed to try to do it if people encourage you to do it, and that improv is writing. It is writing. You know, and if there's one thing I want to do before I die, I would like to get the business to recognize the fact that when actors improvise, that's them writing dialogue for your movie. You know, like that's a real thing.
So obviously,
not to fault Paul Anderson or whatever, but there are filmmakers like Mike Leigh. It's like a Mike Leigh film written and directed by Mike Leigh. Like, I've talked to some of those actors, and they improvised that whole script for you during the rehearsal process. So how can you say you wrote it? But anyway,
that's. But so obviously,
my first teacher was this guy named Jim Morley, who taught us all like improv games when I was like 9 years old. Which now, when I think about how much improvisation has been such an important part of my life, it's amazing that that's how I started. It was one of those rare moments in life where you're like, these are my people. Like, I get it now. This is where I should be going every day instead of breaking bottles and breaking into the school. Like, I should be coming here and goofing around with these people. And from then on, that was it. From pretty much from that day. Wow. It's not that I ever dreamed of working as an actor. It was just something I suddenly realized I loved to do this, and it already seemed to fit my whole skill set already. I was up for another movie at the same time as I was about to audition for State of Grace, and my agents were all saying, "Oh no, you got to do this. You got to, you know, this is that State of Grace part is not such a great part. You have to." And I remember Sean was like, "Well, what do you think? You going to come do this audition or what?" And I said, "Well, yeah, but my agent's saying that I should do it." And he goes, "What?" I said, my agent said I should probably do that." He said, "Who?" I said, "My agent." And he's like, "John, your agent is the last person you should be asking what you should be doing. What do you want to do? What moves you? What do you believe in?" And that was a very impactful thing for someone to say to a 22-year-old John Reilly. And I suddenly went, oh, wow, because you just buy into this thing, especially actors buy into this thing. I don't know, there's this framework of agents and photographers and managers, and we just have to please them, and then they give us our opportunities. And that's just not the way that's not the way to a fruitful career, actually.
And your best interest is not their first priority.
Right. He's like, John, they want to make money. That's all. Was that other movie offering you more money? I was like, yeah. I was like, duh. That's what, like, oh, okay.
Wow, you were lucky to hear that so early on.
Yeah, I was very lucky. So maybe spread the word.
Right.
I mean, I was a real advocate for a real humanist approach to the characters behind the scenes. So I thought, well, there's enough dynamic kind of disposable kids entertainment out there. Let's say something real about people, even though we're playing video game characters. Let's say something real about people. Let's do things that kids can relate to in their own lives. I didn't want to let the audience off the hook with just making a flashy, shiny, happy kids movie that was just instantly forgettable. I wanted to do something that really, if kids were going to let us into that very personal place of their hearts, then let's make it worth their while. Let's really do something meaningful. When they let us into that special place, like let's try to move them and do things that mean something to them, not just entertain them or distract them. All of the stuff I have out right now is in some way has that humanist point of view, because I was just kind of drawn to that material anyway, but I also think in the world that we're in right now, with all the division and it's actually computer thinking. That's what we're in. We've been trained to think the way we've been acting by computers, because a computer doesn't understand a third way. A computer understands 1 or 0, black or white, red or blue, and we've been trained by you're either with me or against me. Right. This dichotomy, this way of thinking. We've been trained that way, and I think the way out of it is to go like, hold on a second, like no matter what your political party, you're a human being. I see you. I see. Like when we did the Sisters Brothers, I was working in Romania, and there's a big Roma population there, of course, Romania, also known as gypsies,
Right.
and they're this hated majority, really.
Right.
I mean, they are the people that founded Romania. And so there's a lot of ethnic Russian people who are Romanian who look on them like these filthy people. And I remember being in the car with my driver, who I got pretty close to. I liked this guy. And he's like, gypsies, I hate them. I hate the gypsies. And I was like, you wait a minute. You hate all the gypsies? Yes, I hate them. I hate them. And I hate them. I was like, wait a second. What if there was a gypsy baby right there? Would you hate the gypsy baby? Well, no. It's a baby. And I was like, okay. So that guy right there was a baby. And so how can you hate him now if you wouldn't hate him if he was a baby? You know what I mean? Donald Trump was a baby. Each one of us were infants, so
right.
each one of us deserves dignity and respect and love. No matter what we say, what we do, we have to stick to these principles of humanism. That is how we survive. That's how we survive. That's how the planet keeps going. But anyway, I could go on and on about that.
Any tips on perseverance when times get tough? How do you? It's also especially hard to be someone like you who quality is first. Therefore, it's even harder to push through. Yeah. So, what advice would you give?
It's tough because the truth is, I remember my first movie audition was for Child's Play, that Chucky movie, the first one, and I would have been so happy to get that.
That was a big movie. That was a big movie.
I mean. It's a terrible movie. But at the time, when I was 19 years old, or 20, whatever it was, I would have been so happy just to make some money or whatever. So I don't mean to criticize younger actors who are looking for opportunities. I have a great luxury now. I have this big, all this history behind me. I can pick and choose, and I've saved enough money that I can do that. But in terms of perseverance. There is a place for you in this world. The world often wants to tell you there isn't a place for you, but there is. But you have to make it. You have to insist on being part of the world, look at the way I look, like, or look at my background. I have no right to be a movie star, I just kept doing it. I kept trying, and when I had setbacks, I said, well, what the hell else am I going to do? Just keep trying it. I do remember when I was in high school seeing this thing, the Brat Pack. Remember the Brat Pack?
How could we forget?
And I remember seeing all these actors, and they were so handsome, and they were in every movie. And I just think, like, I'm never gonna be in a movie. Like, I'm not in the Brat Pack, like, and it's a small pack. And I thought, like, wow, how does that even happen? And then 10 years later, like, it was a lot harder for those actors to get the work that they were getting.
100%.
I have sympathy for them, of course, but then it made me realize, like, oh, remember when they were the only pack?
Right.
And now maybe there is room for you there,
But you also created your own marketplace. You created your own product that the market didn't know it needed until it saw you.
But the market still doesn't know that it needs me, Honestly.
Yeah, but
I go to things like the People's Choice Awards last night, and they're like, what the hell is this guy?
But you said that people say that they need a John C. Reilly type. You have become a type.
Right, but that's just by, like, sinking into the groundwater. Like, I've done so much work now that I've made a place for myself at the table. I've said I deserve a place at the table. Like, and that's what you have to say from the beginning of your career to the end of your career. You can say, like, well, I might not be like every other bear, but I do deserve a spot, and we all do. All human beings are all. I go back to that humanist stuff. Yeah.
You mentioned Gene Hackman earlier, and I have heard you referred to as your generation's Gene Hackman. And how does it feel to hear that?
I don't, I wonder if we have a Gene Hackman anymore. It's a strange world that we live in now.
I think it's you.
Well, I don't know.
Although Gene didn't do as much comedy as
That's a very nice compliment. Yeah. But when I look at the landscape of actors, like I went to this People's Choice Awards last night, and I was like, who are all these people? Who are they?
Right.
And that's not it's not like a criticism of them. It's a criticism of our world. Entertainment has become so disposable now that no one gets the chance to become a Gene Hackman.
Right.
It's just like this endless turnover, like, and the content that's coming out. Like, I mean, the movies, like, Michael Barker, who works for, who's the head of Sony Classics, said to me, like, I used to worry when like 12 movies would come out in the fall, because that was like a lot of competition for one of my films. He's like, John, you know how many movies came out this fall? 37.
Wow.
It's like, so it's like the turnover is just. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to be too negative, but I do wonder, like, who. I mean, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the person who's supposed to be saying to younger people, like, quality matters, your work matters.
That's why they're here today.
Your integrity matters. What you do, where you make your money matters. Like, because I think to the world is saying to kids right now, to younger actors right now, is like, do a watch ad, do a TV show, do a play. It doesn't matter. Just get out there. Just get out there and be famous. Like, it does matter. It does matter what you do. It matters that, and people like, if I have any staying power, or if there is love for me out there, it must be. We're having events like this. but if there is any love out there, it's because people notice that I don't. I'm not out there shilling cheeseburgers, and like, I try to do stuff that I believe in, that has meaning for me, because then it has a chance to have meaning for you. But if I'm looking down at the audience and thinking, like, they'll take any crap, just whatever, just say the joke, like, that corrodes the world, and it corrodes the human spirit, I think. But, my few little brushes with TV and that kind of thing, I realize, like, I don't understand how this works. I see my work as a pyramid structure, like the director's on the top of the pyramid.
Right.
And so when I go on, I remember doing a guesting on a TV show one time, and like 4 different writers coming up to me. Oh, don't forget you. I was like, hold on a second. Who are these people? Like, who's in charge here?
And you have a different director every episode.
Yeah, that was really weird. So it didn't suit me.
Start with your first ever film appearance, which was Casualties of War, in 1989. Brian De Palma directing. Pretty great debut. How did De Palma find you?
I was still in Chicago, and I kind of didn't quite have an agent, but there were these agencies that would let you, if there was a big job coming up and they knew that you were okay, they would let you come in and tape. Okay. And so this movie, all the actors of my age were trying to get in. It still is kind of a rite of passage for male actors anyway, to get in war movies, like how a lot of unknown people get started.
Well, it's also large casts. And,
large casts,
ensemble,
like a certain age group, like.
Right.
And so I thought, like, well, here's this is a chance to get in a movie, and so I made a really smart choice, which is that normally you'd go in. You guys all know it's like go in and you sit and read with your agent, or you read with a casting person or whatever, and it sucks and and you just don't have nothing to play off of. And I had a few auditions like that before this, and I realized I don't do my best work like that. So I got a friend of mine. I said, listen, you read for me, you be off camera for me, and I'll be off camera for you, and we'll practice at home together, and then we'll go into that office, that weird corporate office with a video camera where we always get all nervous, and we'll be prepared and comfortable already. Right. And so we went in and did that, and I got cast off of that videotape by Lynn Stallmaster, a casting director out here.
That's amazing.
And I was cast I had a day player part, and it was just this guy who's supposed to get his arm blown off in the middle of a battle at the beginning of that movie, and then that's it. He gets carted away. It's just this kind of intense, dramatic moment, but that was it, literally one scene. And I went over there. Every story I tell takes 20 minutes. I went over there, and so I had never been out of the Midwest. I'd never been in an airplane. I'd never left America. I'd never been in a movie. And all of a sudden, I was like on an airplane flying to Thailand, and I got there, and it was just surreal, you know. First of all, I got involved there with the rehearsal process and stuff, and I was coming out of doing nothing but theater in Chicago, so I just thought, like, you go in, just do the best you can, do whatever anyone asks you to, and just cross into the looking glass, like suspend your disbelief. And so we were doing these weird rehearsals in this big kind of ballroom at this fancy hotel, and in Phuket, and I remember they'd be like, oh, they'd be reading through these scenes and going through it, and they'd be like, oh, we don't have this, the troupe is talking to this 80-year-old Vietnamese guy here. We don't have that guy. Who here, you do it. And I'm like, yeah, great, me. Yeah, like, pretending to speak Vietnamese and like, just completely going for it, and whatever it was, whatever little thing that they asked me to do. Then I got kind of a reputation during rehearsals as kind of funny and willing to jump in and do whatever. A lot of the other actors on that movie were really like trying to out-tough Sean Penn, And I was like, aren't we putting on a show? Like, why are you trying to out-tough Sean Penn? He's way tougher than all of us. So what happened was a couple of those people who were trying to out-tough Sean Penn got fired. First one of them got fired, and then I got bumped up to a cameo part. Wow. So this guy got fired. This guy moved up to his leading role, and I moved up to that guy's cameo, right? And then I started rehearsing that, and so then I got sent back home because now this cameo doesn't film until later in the schedule. And like, go back home. So I go back. On the way home, I stop in L.A. because I was kind of getting sweet on this girl who I ended up marrying. Who was Sean Penn's assistant at the time. Wow. Who I met there in Thailand. And I know, it's crazy, right? I'm still married to her. That's even crazier.
That's amazing.
Yeah. 26 years, that's like 100 in Hollywood. So then I went back home, or I started to go back home. I stopped in LA, fell deeply in love with this girl, Alice and Dickie, and And then I was sleeping, and I had this dream. And I swear to God, you're going to think I'm making this up, but I swear to God, this is true. In the dream, I was having this dream, and in the dream, the phone rang, and then someone said, "John, it's your agent." And in the dream, I answered the phone call, and they said, "You have to go back to Thailand. You're cast in a different part." And then I woke up from that dream, from Allison waking me saying, "John, there's a phone call for you." I got up. I got on the phone. It's my agent from Chicago. "You have to go back to Thailand. You've been cast in another role." Now, I missed the quick flight from L.A. back over to Thailand, so I had to fly from L.A. to Miami to to New Delhi to Hong Kong. I globe-trotted all the way back there. And I got into the car, and the producer of that movie, Art Linson, was like, "How you doing, kid?" I was like, "I'm good. What part am I playing?" But I still didn't know. They wouldn't tell me. They were like, "Just get him here." And so Art Linson goes, "You're the new Hatcher," which is like the fourth lead of the movie.
Wow.
Which is the part I played. And then I was like, "Where are we going?" And he's like, "Don't worry. We're just going to the set. We're going to get your hair cut and get you in your uniform. Get your costume figured out." And I was like, "Okay." So I got there, they cut my hair, they put me in this uniform, and Brian De Palma got one look at him. He's like, "Great, let's do something right now." Okay.
See,
what is happening to me
all
right now?
All those improv classes, though. Had you not taken
movie,
all those improv classes and done all of that work, you would not have been ready.
So Paul and I we had made Hard Eight together, which was put together at the Sundance Filmmakers Workshop. So if you ever get asked to go in the summertime up to Sundance, go.
It's a good opportunity.
There's amazing younger people coming up there to work on scripts that they've written, and they kind of teach them how to shoot a movie if they haven't done it before. That's where I met Paul, and that's where we became really very close friends. Yeah, Paul pays attention. You know, like I'm sure you guys have been on sets where you're like, "Is anyone watching what we're doing?" I know there's all this other stuff we have to worry about. Is anyone watching what we're doing? And that's what I always say to directors, like, you know, like, "How do you like to work?" Like, "Just pay attention to what I'm doing." You're like,
wow,
it's taken us so long to get to this moment, this sacred moment between action and cut. We should all be focused on what's happening with the acting at that moment, shouldn't we? So Paul is like hyper focused on what's going on with the acting. He's like all sweaty and like wide-eyed next to the camera, like. And then he'll run in, you know, after a take and be like, "It was cool. I saw he took a pause there," and he's like, wow, he really did notice every single thing that I did, and he noticed what was different from the last take, etc. And he'll give little encouragement or hints. Well, maybe go try this or that. So you really feel like you have a collaborator behind the camera, and that's really important, you know. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw Phantom Thread.
Yes, amazing.
But what you might not know is that Paul was the director of photography for that movie. Paul directed that movie, he wrote it, but he was also the camera operator for that movie.
Wow.
So try directing Daniel Day-Lewis just for a day. And then try to operate a camera while you're doing it. Like, that was a real tour de force, what he did. So
he deserved an Oscar just for that experience. Yeah. So 2002, Chicago and Gangs of New York in the same year. Tell me what it was like to work with Scorsese, and I know that production took forever, and then to work with Rob Marshall. What did they have in common that you took away with?
Gosh, you know, directors are just like human beings. They're each very unique and very different. Rob had Rob came up as a dancer and a choreographer in the musical theater, which that's how I learned how to be an actor. You know, like I did those improv classes and stuff when I was a kid, but in terms of plays, we weren't doing Ibsen on the south side of Chicago, you know, or Shakespeare for that matter. We were doing Hello Dolly, Brigadoon, The Bells Are Ringing, The King and I, Fiddler on the Roof. I could go on and on. Jesus Christ Superstar. I was in all those. So Rob, I suddenly realized, like when I went to acting school, I got this idea in my head, because musicals were such a big part of my past as a child. I thought, well, that's what like silly actors do. They do musicals and comedy, and like I'm a serious actor. I'm going to be a dramatic actor. You know, like I'm in this conservatory of acting, and that's all bullshit. And it wasn't until I got that movie when I realized, like, no, it's not bullshit. It's a really special thing to be able to do all these things that a musical requires. And musical theater is like other than jazz, and baseball maybe, it's the one thing we invented.
It's true.
You know, it's an American art form. Like, if you've ever seen a musical on stage in London, you'll know what an American art form it is. So working with Rob was like a come to Jesus moment for me when I realized, oh my God, like this is who I am, and this is a noble pursuit, and this is art, you know. So it was another one of those moments in life where you're like, when you have the clarity of mind to go like, this is an important moment in my life. Literally, while I was performing on this little pretend theater we're up in Toronto, I could tell like, oh my God, the life is coming full circle, and it was just a very,
and the
very
movie's called
emotional
Chicago.
Experience. Yeah, it wasn't shot in Chicago. Can you believe it was shot in Toronto?
I remember that.
Yeah, working with Martin Scorsese, I did a couple of things with him. I did The Aviator after that film, and working with him was like it was like working with a genius oil painter or something. You know, like a great painter knows like, well, if I put a dab of red here, it will make people feel this just by the choice of this color red. Wow. I'll evoke a response. You know, that deliberate. You know, when Scorsese directs a film, he has such a mastery of film language, because not only his films and all the work that he's done, but the films that he's watched. He spent his whole life, still to this day, watching films, studying them, and so everything he did was like, he's similar to Paul in that he's very enthusiastic about actors. He's kind of like, he doesn't quite understand how it all works. How are they doing this?
He seems mystified by it.
Keep going. Yeah. He does seem mystified, but he's not mystified at all by film and camera and composition and that kind of thing. Like, so I felt like really in good hands, and I felt like someone who really appreciated what is great about Ireland. You know, there's a certain cynicism here with all the Paddy stuff, you know, and especially the kind of romantic notions that Irish Americans have about Ireland. Like, you know, St. Patrick's Day is not just about drinking, it's about a celebration of Irish culture. And it belittles Ireland to say that it's only about drinking. The importance of Irish culture and poetry and music and literature. And what I realized, you know, I always thought like, well, I'm Irish American, I'm from Chicago, that's why I love Ireland. But this time, in this world moment, when we're looking at the threat to democracy in so many different places, and the real dark moment for some people all over the world, you know, it was a little bit tricky going to do a parade in Ireland when all of that was going on. But I made the decision, you know, joy is an important part of human strength. And we can't let the darkness of the world extinguish something like the St. Patrick's Day festival in Dublin. You know, people really needed that. We needed it. And what I realized in this moment with democracy in the world, what I realized was that Ireland's DNA has liberation at the center of it. Liberation, self-reliance, freedom, democracy. You've got a great little democracy here, you know? So sometimes it takes a cheeky American to say these things, you know? And I was happy to be that.